Apex predators bowed to no one until humans showed up. The W's monstrous jaws dripped with the blood of Commander Paul Murphy's fallen comrades as the apex predators rampaged through the shattered defenses of the TA City Prime colony. Murphy had seen those nightmare teeth before, back when the Predator Coalition conquered his homeworld and butchered his family. Now, as the grizzled veteran rallied the tattered remnants of the colony's defenders, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's end was near. The W drop pods rained from the sky, disgorging heavily armed shock troopers encased in biomechanical battle armor. Their plasma rifles flashed, sending searing bolts of energy ripping through human flesh and bone. Colony structures exploded under the onslaught of singularity missiles, vanishing into miniature black holes. Murphy and his troops fought back with grim determination, but their pulse rifles seemed pitiful against such overwhelming technology. A hulking W warrior smashed through the human front line, scattering bodies and barking a challenge. Murphy recognized Merrick, a notorious W champion from intel reports. He had never lost a battle. Bellowing an ancient W war cry, Merrick launched himself at Murphy, supercharged muscles propelling him faster than any human could react. Murphy dove aside just in time, genomic targeting systems in his ocular implants guiding his aim. His pulse rifle cracked again and again, the shots sparking harmlessly off Merrick's armor. The situation looked hopeless, but even against an undefeated apex predator, Murphy refused to give up. He jury-rigged an EMP grenade and tossed it at Merrick's feet. The pulse fried the W's armor, sending the massive warrior crashing to the ground, stunned. Murphy wasted no time in a frantic battlefield surgery. He sliced through the armor's lock and peeled it away, exposing Merrick's strangely textured gray skin. Taking samples for the scientists to analyze later, Murphy couldn't help but marvel at the biological perfection of his enemy. Their DNA held the secret to their seeming invincibility. With precious tissue samples secured and the incapacitated Merrick as a prisoner, Murphy knew they had to run. The colony was lost, but if the scientists could unravel the mystery of W biology, maybe next time would be different. He gave the order to evacuate, praying silently that the secrets in his grasp might one day turn the tide and ensure human survival in a hostile universe that wanted them dead. The battle for TA City Prime was over, but the real fight was just beginning. The battered remnants of the TA City Prime defenders streaked through the void, their ships straining to reach the safety of Prometheus Station before the W could hunt them down. In the claustrophobic confines of the lead shuttle, Commander Paul Murphy kept a watchful eye on their captive Merrick, the notorious W champion. Even defeated and restrained, the massive alien radiated an aura of almost unchecked violence. As the human fleet approached Prometheus Station, Murphy couldn't shake the feeling that their narrow escape from TA Prime was just a temporary reprieve. The W would come for them, led by the vengeful overlord Orcs. It was only a matter of time. The shuttles docked with the hidden research outpost, and Murphy wasted no time in transferring Merrick and the precious biological samples to the eager hands of Dr. Elena Ivanova. The xenobiologist's eyes gleamed with a mix of scientific curiosity and personal vendetta as she beheld the captive W warrior. Finally, Dr. Ivanova breathed, her voice tinged with cold purpose. The secrets of the apex predators will be ours. As Dr. Ivanova sequestered herself in her lab to begin studying Merrick and the tissue samples, Murphy found himself summoned to a clandestine meeting with Admiral Zachary Nakamura. The head of human military intelligence greeted Murphy with a grim expression, his face lined with the weight of the war against the Predator Coalition. "Commander Murphy," Admiral Nakamura began, his voice grave. "The loss of TA Prime has pushed us to the brink. We need a game changer, and we need it now." Murphy listened intently as Nakamura outlined a daring plan. A series of raids to capture live specimens of the other apex predator species in the coalition. It was a daring plan, but one that could potentially turn the tide of the war. "I need your best people on this, Murphy," Nakamura said, his gaze intense. "Handpick a team of commandos, each one an expert in fighting the different predator species. We can't afford to fail." Murphy nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. He knew just the soldiers for the job, including Sergeant Jasmine Chen, a fierce close-quarters combat specialist renowned for her deadly prowess against the insectoid Zix. As Murphy set about assembling his team, tension rippled through the ranks of the Predator Coalition. Overlord Orcs seethed with rage at the news of Marek's capture and the loss of biological secrets to the humans. In the grand halls of the Coalition's capital, Orcs vowed to personally lead the next assault against the humans, his voice a thunderous roar of vengeful fury. In the shadows of the Galactic Council, High Chancellor Zol worked tirelessly to maintain the fragile unity of the Predator Coalition. The cunning Zix politician understood that their alliance was the key to victory over the humans. But as word of the humans' audacious raid spread, dissent began to fester among the other predator species. Back at Prometheus Station, Dr. Ivanova pored over the genetic data streaming across her screens, her heart pounding with the thrill of discovery. The secrets of the apex predator's biological supremacy were within her grasp, encoded in a complex array of specialized organs and genetic adaptations. With this knowledge, Dr. Ivanova knew she could engineer these same enhancements into human soldiers, forging a new breed of warriors capable of facing the Predator Coalition on equal footing. As Murphy and his team prepared to embark on their perilous mission, and Dr. Ivanova raced to unlock the apex predator's secrets, the fate of humanity hung in a precarious balance. The war had entered a new and unpredictable phase, and the future would be shaped by the actions of a few brave souls fighting against impossible odds in a hostile universe that sought to consume them all. Commander Paul Murphy surveyed his hand-picked team aboard the stealth cruiser Shadowblade. Sergeant Jasmine Chen checked her sonic disruptors, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Lieutenant Marcus Reeves adjusted the settings on his neural net, preparing for the hunt ahead. The air crackled with tension as Murphy addressed his elite squad. You know the stakes. We either succeed or humanity falls. Let's move. The Shadowblade sliced through the void, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Predator Coalition sensors. Their first target, the Zix homeworld of Krikyu. As they approached the planet's surface, Chen led her squad toward a massive hive complex. Chitinous spires jutted from the ground, surrounded by swarms of patrolling drones. Chen activated her pheromone disruptors, creating a bubble of confusion around her team. "Sonic weapons ready," she whispered. "On my mark." The squad infiltrated the hive, their footsteps muffled by the constant buzzing of Zix wings. They moved deeper into the labyrinthine structure, following Chen's lead as she tracked the unique pheromone signature of the Zix Queen. Suddenly, a group of warrior drones rounded a corner. Chen's reflexes were lightning fast. She fired her sonic disruptor, the concentrated sound waves shattering the drones' exoskeletons. The rest of the squad followed suit, their weapons cutting through the Zix defenses. They found the Queen's chamber, a cavernous space filled with pulsating egg sacs. The Zix Queen, a monstrous creature twice the size of a human, screeched in fury as Chen's team burst in. Sonic blasts and pheromone grenades filled the air. In a matter of minutes, the Queen and several drones lay incapacitated. "Package secured," Chen reported, her voice tight with adrenaline. "Initiating extraction." As Chen's team returned to the Shadowblade with their Zix captives, Murphy prepared for the next phase of the mission. The gas giant Ether loomed before them, its swirling storms concealing the floating cities of the Raptors. Murphy led the assault himself, piloting a sleek stealth fighter through Ether's turbulent atmosphere. His team followed in formation, their ships barely visible against the planet's roiling clouds. They emerged into a vista of impossible beauty and danger. Raptor cities hung suspended in the sky, connected by gossamer bridges that swayed in the fierce winds. Winged shapes patrolled the air, their keen eyes scanning for intruders. Murphy's targeting system locked onto a massive raptor with distinctive scarring across its wings. "Screecher," he muttered. Target acquired. The human fighters engaged their stealth systems and dove towards the Alpha Raptor. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as Screecher's guards noticed the attack. Murphy's piloting skills were put to the ultimate test as he corkscrewed through the aerial defenses. A well-placed EMP blast from Murphy's fighter caught Screecher mid-flight. The massive raptor plummeted, stunned, before Murphy's tractor beam locked on. As they hauled their prize back to the Shadowblade, Murphy allowed himself a grim smile. The final target proved the most elusive. Shadowmere, homeworld of the Nox, was a planet of perpetual twilight and dense forest. Lieutenant Reeves led the hunt. His enhanced senses pushed to their limits as they tracked their quarry. For 3 days, they pursued the Nox matriarch through ravines and shadowy groves. Reeves's team moved like ghosts, using every trick they had learned about Nox behavior to stay one step ahead. On the 3rd night, they cornered their prey in a moonlit clearing. The Nox matriarch was a vision of feline grace and lethal power. Reeves raised his neural disruptor, knowing they would only get one shot. The air filled with the crackle of energy as the disruptor fired. The Nox collapsed, her sleek form twitching as the team moved in to secure her. Back at Prometheus Station, Dr. Elena Ivanova worked feverishly, her lab a hive of activity as she studied the captured predators. Holographic displays flickered with genetic sequences and biomechanical schematics. "Incredible," she breathed, examining the Zix chitin armor under a molecular scanner. "The potential applications are endless." As the first prototypes of the Zix skin armor took shape, Ivanova turned her attention to the Raptor's aerial adaptations. A team of engineers huddled around a workbench, fine-tuning a compact jetpack inspired by the Predator's wings. The Nox's genetic secrets proved the most challenging to unlock, but also the most rewarding. Ivanova's hands shook with excitement as she synthesized the first batch of the sensory enhancement serum. "We've done it," she announced to her team, holding up a vial of shimmering liquid. The next phase of human evolution. As the newly formed Apex Squad began their training, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted. Humanity, long on the defensive, prepared to strike back against their tormentors. In the depths of space, Overlord Carx's war fleet gathered, unaware of the transformed foe they would soon face. The augmented human forces wasted no time capitalizing on their newfound abilities. Commander Murphy stood at the helm of the Shadow Blade, his enhanced senses allowing him to perceive the complex energy signatures of the Zix home hive on Creeq long before it appeared on standard sensors. "Apex Squad, gear up," he ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "We hit hard and fast." As the Shadow Blade entered Creeq's atmosphere, the Apex Squad donned their Zix-inspired bioarmor. The chitinous plates flexed and sealed, conforming perfectly to each soldier's body. Sergeant Chen ran a final check on her sonic disruptors, the weapons humming with lethal potential. The ship touched down silently on the outskirts of the massive hive complex. Murphy led the charge, his team moving with inhuman speed and precision. They slipped past the outer defenses, their Nox-derived sensory implants allowing them to detect and avoid Zix patrols with ease. As they penetrated deeper into the hive, the air grew thick with pheromones and the constant drone of wings. Chen activated her disruptors, creating a bubble of sensory chaos around the squad. Confused Zix workers scattered in their wake. Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the air. A swarm of warrior drones descended upon them, mandibles snapping and stingers poised to strike. The Apex Squad's training kicked in. They moved as one, their augmented reflexes allowing them to dodge attacks that would have eviscerated normal humans. Chen's sonic weapons tore through the first wave of drones, their exoskeletons shattering under the concentrated sound waves. Lieutenant Reeves unleashed a barrage of pheromone grenades, sending another group into a frenzy of friendly fire. As the battle raged, Murphy spotted their true target, High Chancellor Zol, his ornate carapace gleaming as he directed his forces from an elevated platform. Murphy tapped a control on his wrist, activating the next phase of their plan. A massive container at the rear of the squad hissed open. From within emerged the captured Zix Queen, her compound eyes blazing with unnatural fury. Chen's pheromone disruptors had driven her into a berserk state, and she immediately set upon her own kind with terrifying ferocity. Zol's elite guards fell before the Queen's onslaught. The High Chancellor himself barely managed to avoid her initial charge, his wings buzzing frantically as he took to the air. Murphy seized the opportunity, activating his Raptor-inspired jetpack to pursue him. The two leaders clashed high above the chaos below, Zol's natural weaponry meeting Murphy's augmented strength. Neither could gain a clear advantage as they grappled. Murphy caught glimpses of the battle below, his Apex squad carving out a defensible position, the Berserk Queen continuing her rampage, and waves of confused Zix caught between loyalty and instinct. With a final burst of strength, Murphy slammed Zoll against a nearby wall. The High Chancellor's exoskeleton cracked and he slumped to the ground, defeated. Murphy stood over his fallen foe, chest heaving as he surveyed the scene of their victory. "Secure the prisoner," he commanded, his voice carrying over the squad's comm channel. As the Apex squad consolidated their position within the heart of the Zix hive, ripples of their success spread across the galaxy. In the shadowy chambers of the Galactic Council, heated debates erupted as news of the humans' victories using weaponized predators reached alien ears. The Tellarite ambassador, his tentacles writhing with excitement, addressed the assembly. "We cannot ignore the humans' technological leap. Think of the advancements we could gain through trade agreements." Murmurs of agreement rose from several delegations, but they were cut short by a furious hiss. Alara, the Nox ambassador, stalked to the center of the chamber, her feline eyes blazing with rage. "You would consort with butchers and slavers," she snarled. "Have you seen what they've done to our captured kin? These advancements come at the cost of our very essence." The chamber erupted into chaos. Pragmatists and hardliners shouting accusations across the floor. In the midst of the tumult, High Chancellor Zoll's empty seat stood as a stark reminder of how quickly the balance of power could shift. Back on Prometheus Station, Dr. Elena Ivanova hunched over her workstation, dark circles under her eyes betraying her relentless drive. Holographic displays flickered with complex DNA strands as she manipulated the Raptor genetic code. "Yes," she whispered, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "There it is." With trembling hands, she synthesized a vial of shimmering liquid, a serum derived from Raptor enzymes. Initial tests on human subjects had shown incredible results, temporary bursts of enhanced speed and agility that, when combined with the Zix skin armor and Nox sensory implants, elevated human performance to true predator levels. As Ivanova prepared larger batches for field deployment, a part of her mind couldn't help but drift to memories of her family, lost in the early days of the Predator Coalition's attacks. She pushed the thoughts aside, burying herself deeper in her work. There would be time for reflection later, after humanity's survival was secured. Unbeknownst to the humans, Overlord Car-X had been preparing for this moment. On the W homeworld of Armageddon, he stood before a vast holographic display of the orbital shipyards, the beating heart of the W war machine. His scarred face twisted into a cruel smile as he outlined his strategy to a group of cybernetic engineers. "The humans think they can turn our strengths against us," Car-X growled. "Let them come. When they do, we'll show them the price of their arrogance." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the shipyards. The Apex squad had taken the bait, their stealth ship weaving through the massive structures with preternatural skill. Murphy led his team in a daring boarding action, their augmented abilities allowing them to cut through W defenses with ease. But as they penetrated deeper into the shipyards, something began to feel wrong. Murphy's enhanced senses started to flicker, his bioarmor growing sluggish and unresponsive. Around him, he saw his squad members struggling with similar malfunctions. "It's a trap!" he shouted, but it was too late. Car-X's cybernetic virus had taken hold, subverting the very predator technologies that had given the humans their edge. As W warriors closed in, Murphy and his team found themselves outmatched and vulnerable. Just as defeat seemed certain, a cascade of energy surged through the shipyard systems. The virus faltered, then collapsed entirely. Murphy's augmentations flared back to life, and the Apex squad rallied. In the ensuing chaos, Murphy spotted Car-X himself, the W Overlord's face contorted with rage at the failure of his plan. Without hesitation, Murphy charged forward. If they couldn't disable the W war machine, they'd take its leader instead. As Murphy grappled with Car-X, his mind raced. Who had interfered with the virus? What unseen ally had saved them from certain doom? But those questions would have to wait. For now, there was a battle to win, and a captured Overlord might be the key to ending this war once and for all. Murphy's fist connected with Car-X's jaw, the impact reverberating through the W Overlord's cybernetic enhancements. As Car-X stumbled, Murphy seized the opportunity, wrestling him to the ground and securing his limbs with reinforced restraints. "Apex squad, target secured," Murphy growled into his comm. "Fall back to the extraction point." The team fought their way back to the Shadow Blade, Car-X in tow. As they broke atmosphere, Chen piloted them away from Armageddon at maximum speed, leaving a swarm of pursuing W ships in their wake. Back on Prometheus Station, Dr. Ivanova's eyes widened as she examined Car-X's unconscious form. "These augmentations," she muttered, her fingers flying over holographic displays. "They're beyond anything we've seen before. The integration with his biology is seamless." For weeks, Ivanova and her team worked tirelessly, unraveling the secrets of W cybernetics. The breakthrough came unexpectedly during a routine neural scan. "There!" Ivanova exclaimed, pointing to a pulsing node in Car-X's brainstem. "That's the key to melding their tech with organic tissue." With this discovery, Ivanova pushed forward into uncharted territory. She developed a process to graft W armor and neural implants onto human subjects. The Apex squad, hardened by their previous augmentations, volunteered as test subjects. Murphy gritted his teeth as the first cybernetic implant fused with his spinal column. Pain gave way to a rush of sensory input as his nervous system integrated with the W tech. He flexed his hand, watching as microscopic armor plates flowed like liquid across his skin. "How do you feel, Commander?" Ivanova asked, her voice tense with anticipation. Murphy's eyes snapped open, glowing with an ethereal light. He raised his hand, and a nearby datapad floated effortlessly into his grasp. "I feel limitless," he replied, his voice carrying a new resonance. As the newly augmented Apex squad underwent grueling combat trials, ripples spread through galactic politics. On Prometheus Station's primary communication deck, human ambassadors found themselves besieged by eager alien delegates. "The Cyrene Collective offers 50 years of antimatter fuel production in exchange for access to your augmentation protocols," a multi-voiced envoy buzzed. "Unacceptable," a stern-faced human diplomat countered. "We require defensive technologies as well." In the corner of the chamber, Alara, the Nox ambassador, paced restlessly, her tail lashing in agitation. "You dance on the edge of an abyss," she hissed. "These advancements will spread like a plague across the stars." Her warnings fell on deaf ears as negotiations intensified. Resources, technology, and strategic intelligence flowed into human hands, fueling their ascent to galactic dominance. Meanwhile, in the shadowy recesses of Zix space, Chancellor Zoll convened with a delegation of battle-scarred raptors. Holographic displays flickered with stolen data on human augmentation techniques. "With Car-X neutralized, the W grow weak," Zoll chittered. "Together, we can seize control of this new power." The lead raptor, his scales gleaming under harsh lights, nodded in agreement. "We strike at the source, Prometheus Station." Under cover of an asteroid field, a strike force of Zix and Raptor ships approached the human stronghold. Cloaking fields shimmered as they penetrated the station's outer defenses. Inside her lab, Ivanova worked feverishly, unaware of the impending attack. Alarms blared to life as the first explosions rocked the station. She looked up in horror as the lab's reinforced doors buckled under assault. Zix commandos burst through, their mandibles clicking with predatory anticipation. A stun blast caught Ivanova before she could reach for a weapon. As she slipped into unconsciousness, she saw the stasis pod containing Car-X being torn from its moorings. The raid was over in minutes. As Zix ships retreated with their precious cargo, a human officer slipped away from the chaos, transmitting encrypted data to a distant relay. The mole's work was done. On the bridge of the Shadow Blade, Murphy received the distress call. His cybernetically enhanced mind processed the implications in microseconds. He turned to his squad, their eyes glowing with the same fierce tenacity. "Prep for immediate deployment," he ordered, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "We're taking the fight to them." As the Shadow Blade and its escort of newly augmented warships prepared to jump, Murphy knew the coming battle would determine the fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy. The Shadow Blade's engines roared as it tore through space, leading a fleet of newly augmented warships. Commander Murphy stood at the helm, his cybernetically enhanced mind processing tactical data at lightning speed. The rescue of Dr. Ivanova and the reclamation of Overlord Car-X had become his sole focus. "Tanus Prime on approach," Chen announced, her voice tinged with anticipation. Volcanic activity off the charts. This won't be a smooth landing. Murphy nodded, his glowing eyes fixed on the fiery world growing larger in the view screen. Apex Squad, prepare for immediate deployment. We hit hard and fast. As the ships breached Tanis Prime's atmosphere, they were met with a hail of plasma fire. Zix interceptors swarmed around them, their insectoid forms darting through plumes of volcanic ash. Evasive maneuvers, Murphy barked. The Shadow Blade rolled, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts. All ships engage defensive protocols. We're punching through to the surface. The descent was chaos incarnate. Human W hybrid troops poured from the ship's deployment bays, their augmented forms twisting and leaping with inhuman agility. They clashed with waves of Zix warriors, the battlefield illuminated by the hellish glow of lava flows. Murphy led the charge, his W-enhanced abilities allowing him to tear through Zix ranks with terrifying efficiency. Each movement was a blur, his cybernetic implants granting him perfect spatial awareness and superhuman strength. Reeves, Chen, take your squads and flank the eastern approach, he commanded through the neural link. I'm detecting heavy resistance near the council chambers. That's where they'll be holding Ivanova. As the battle raged across Tanis Prime's volatile landscape, Murphy's lieutenants encountered unexpected opposition. A figure in human combat gear emerged from the smoke, firing precise shots that dropped several Apex troopers. "It's the mole!" Chen shouted, her augmented senses picking up the traitor's biosignature. "He's trying to reach the Zix command post." Reeves and Chen broke off from the main assault, pursuing the turncoat through a maze of crystalline structures. The traitor's knowledge of human tactics made him a formidable opponent, but he was outmatched by the sheer power of the W augmentations. After a brutal close-quarters fight that left the surrounding terrain scarred and smoking, Chen pinned the mole against a wall of obsidian. Reeves delivered the final blow, his armored fist shattering through the traitor's defenses. Meanwhile, Murphy had fought his way to the fortified council chambers. The massive doors buckled under his assault, revealing a scene of controlled chaos within. Dr. Ivanova was strapped to a biocontainment pod, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and defiance. Beside her, the stasis unit containing Orcs hummed ominously. Chancellor Zoll rose to meet Murphy, his chitinous armor gleaming in the chamber's harsh light. "You are too late, human," he hissed. "We have already begun extracting the secrets of your augmentations." Murphy's response was a blur of motion. He closed the distance between them in an instant, his W-enhanced limbs. Striking with precision and power, Zoll fought back ferociously, his natural weapons clashing against Murphy's cybernetic enhancements. The two leaders battled across the chamber, their struggle a microcosm of the larger war. Murphy felt his augmentation surge, granting him an edge over the Zix Chancellor. With a final devastating combination of strikes, he brought Zoll to his knees. "It's over, Chancellor," Murphy growled, securing restraints around Zoll's limbs. "You're coming with us." As Apex Squad secured both Ivanova and Orcs, the humans began their fighting retreat. They carved a path back to their ships, the rescued prisoners safely in tow. Victory seemed within grasp, but as they broke Tanis Prime's atmosphere, alarms blared throughout the fleet. A massive Raptor armada decloaked before them, led by a sleek command ship. On its bridge stood Screecher, her eyes blazing with cold fury. "All ships, brace for impact!" Murphy shouted as the first wave of chemical munitions streaked towards them. The projectiles detonated in brilliant flashes, releasing a corrosive mist that seeped through hull breaches and ventilation systems. Inside the Shadow Blade, chaos erupted. Human W hybrids collapsed, screaming in agony as their augmentations began to fail. Murphy watched in horror as his own cybernetic enhancements flickered and died, leaving him vulnerable and all too human once again. "Full containment protocols," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "Get us back to Prometheus Station now!" As the battered human fleet limped away from Tanis Prime, Dr. Ivanova worked feverishly in the Shadow Blade's makeshift lab. Her hands flew over holographic displays, making final adjustments to a process she had been developing in secret. "Commander," she called out, her voice tinged with both excitement and trepidation. "I have something that might turn the tide, but the risks, they're unprecedented." Murphy stepped into the lab, his face grim. "We're out of options, Doctor." "What do you have?" Ivanova activated a series of stasis pods, revealing human forms suspended within. "The next evolution of our species," she said softly. "True apex hybrids, a perfect fusion of human resilience with the strengths of all four predator races." As Murphy watched, the pods hissed open, the figures within stirring. Their bodies were a seamless blend of organic tissue and advanced technology. Cybernetics pulsed beneath skin covered in Zix bio-armor. Their eyes held the preternatural awareness of Nox's sensory organs, while their limbs rippled with raptor-like musculature. The first apex hybrid stepped forward, its gaze meeting Murphy's. In that moment, he knew the war had entered a new phase, one that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. The Shadow Blade shuddered as it docked with Prometheus Station. Alarms blared throughout the massive structure, drowning out the controlled chaos of personnel rushing to battle stations. Commander Murphy strode onto the command deck, his face a mask of steadfast perseverance. "Status report," he barked. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across holographic displays. Multiple hostile signatures detected, Zix and Raptor forces converging from all vectors. Murphy nodded, his enhanced mind processing the tactical data. "Deploy all available units. Priority on protecting Dr. Ivanova's research facilities." As the station's defenders took their positions, a cacophony of explosions rocked the outer hull. Zix boarding pods punctured through armor plating, disgorging waves of chitinous warriors. Raptor squadrons strafed defensive emplacements, their aerial agility allowing them to evade most counterfire. In the heart of the station, Dr. Ivanova worked feverishly, her lab a whirlwind of activity. She glanced up as the first of the apex hybrids entered, their imposing forms a testament to her groundbreaking work. "Secure the perimeter," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing din of battle. "We cannot let them breach this sector." The hybrid troops moved with fluid grace, their augmented bodies a seamless fusion of human and alien physiology. As Zix warriors poured through a nearby corridor, the hybrids engaged them with ruthless efficiency. W-enhanced reflexes allowed them to anticipate and counter each attack, while Zix bio-armor absorbed punishing blows. Meanwhile, aboard Screecher's command ship, a shadow moved through darkened corridors. Skyburner, her scales camouflaged to match the metallic surfaces, silently disabled critical systems. As alarms began to blare, she made her way to the bridge. Screecher whirled, her eyes narrowing as she recognized her daughter. "Traitor!" she hissed. Before Skyburner could respond, the ship rocked violently. Lieutenant Reeves's voice crackled over the comms. "Boarding successful. All units, move in!" Chaos erupted on the bridge as human forces stormed in. Skyburner threw herself at her mother, their limbs a blur of motion as they grappled in the confined space. Screecher's superior strength was nullified by Skyburner's agility and knowledge of her fighting style. With a final, decisive move, Skyburner pinned Screecher to the ground. "It's over, Mother," she growled. As news of Screecher's capture spread, Raptor formations began to splinter. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. On Prometheus Station, a new horror unfolded. Apex hybrid soldiers convulsed, their bodies twisting in unnatural ways. Skin bubbled and split as alien organs mutated uncontrollably. Dr. Ivanova watched in horror as her creations turned on their allies, rampaging through the station's corridors. "Initiate kill switch protocols," she choked out, her fingers trembling as she input the command codes. Throughout the station, hybrid soldiers collapsed, their augmented systems shutting down. The silence that followed was deafening. Commander Murphy, his face streaked with blood and grime, led a final push against the Zix forces. They fought their way to Chancellor Zoll's position, the air thick with the acrid smell of weapons fire and alien blood. Murphy engaged Zoll directly, their combat a brutal dance of strength and strategy. But as Murphy landed the final blow, a stray energy blast caught him in the chest. He staggered, his vision blurring as he felt the life drain from him. As human forces secured their victory, medics rushed Murphy to the infirmary. Dr. Ivanova, her eyes haunted by the day's losses, returned to her lab. She stared at the stasis pods containing Screecher and Zoll, her mind already formulating a new, desperate plan. In the depths of space, the remnants of the Zix Raptor Alliance regrouped. Their leaders captured or slain, they nursed their wounds and plotted their revenge. The next attack would be their last. A final, all-out assault to annihilate the human threat once and for all. On Prometheus Station, Dr. Ivanova hunched over her workstation, the glow of holographic displays casting eerie shadows across her face. Her fingers flew across the controls as she began the delicate process of genetic resequencing. The stasis pods hummed ominously, their occupants unaware of the transformation that awaited them. "This is our only chance," she muttered, her fingers flying across holographic interfaces. "We must evolve or perish." Alarms blared as the station's ethical oversight protocols detected unauthorized experimentation. Ivanova ignored them, her focus absolute as she initiated the splicing process. Human genes intertwined with alien DNA, creating something entirely new and terrifyingly powerful. In the infirmary, Commander Murphy struggled to consciousness. His chest was a mass of scar tissue and cyber implants, evidence of his near-fatal encounter with Chancellor Zoll. As awareness returned, so did the crushing weight of their dire situation. "Status report," he croaked, trying to sit up. Lieutenant Chen appeared at his bedside, her face grim. "Sir, Dr. Ivanova she's gone rogue. She's experimenting on the captured Predator leaders." Murphy's eyes widened. He knew the desperation that drove Ivanova, understood the stakes they faced. With effort, he swung his legs off the bed. "Take me to her, now." In the depths of her lab, Ivanova watched as the first of her creations stirred within its growth chamber. The being inside was a fusion of human and predator traits, towering and muscular, with chitinous armor plates and raptor-like talons. Its eyes snapped open, revealing an intelligence that was both alien and familiar. The lab doors hissed open. Murphy entered, leaning heavily on Chen for support, his face a mask of shock as he beheld Ivanova's work. "What have you done?" he whispered. Ivanova turned, her eyes gleaming with a mix of triumph and madness. "I've given us a fighting chance, Commander. Behold the future of our species, the predator-human apex hybrids." As if on cue, the growth chamber drained. The hybrid within stepped out, its movements fluid and predatory. Murphy felt a chill run down his spine, recognizing elements of all four predator races merged into one terrifying whole. "This is insanity," Chen breathed. "We can't control these things." "We must," Ivanova insisted. "The Zix Raptor Alliance will regroup. They'll come for us with everything they have. This is our only hope for survival." Murphy stared at the hybrid, his tactical mind already assessing its potential as a weapon. The ethical implications were staggering, but so were the stakes they faced. "Continue your work," he said finally, his voice heavy, "but under my direct supervision." "We're walking a dangerous line here, Doctor." As Ivanova returned to her consoles, new alarms blared throughout the station. Chen's comm unit crackled to life, panic evident in her tone. "Multiple planetary distress signals incoming." It's everywhere! The apex predators are transforming!" Murphy rushed to the command center, his legs shaking. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing scenes of horror across a dozen worlds. Zix, Raptors, Nox, and W alike writhed in agony as their bodies twisted and warped into nightmarish new forms. A familiar face appeared on the screen. Firehawk, his scales gleaming with malevolent triumph. "Behold the fruits of your hubris, humans," he hissed. "You thought to play God with our kind. Now witness true evolution." As the transmission cut out, Murphy turned to see Apex and its hybrid brethren entering the command center. Their eyes, once filled with cold intelligence, now burned with something new, fear. "The mutants!" Apex growled, its voice a discordant blend of human and predator tones. "They're stronger than us. We can't contain them alone." Murphy's gaze swept over the assembled hybrids, then to Ivanova, who stood rigid with excitement. He knew what she wanted, to unleash more of her creations upon the galaxy, to remake every world in their image. But as reports flooded in of entire planets falling to the mutant hordes, Murphy realized he might not have a choice. Humanity stood on the precipice, caught between Ivanova's vision of a hybrid future and the annihilation promised by Firehawk's twisted creations. He closed his eyes, the weight of the entire galaxy pressing down upon him. When he opened them again, his decision was made. "Doctor," he said, his voice heavy with the burden of command. "Begin the next phase, but this time we do it my way." Ivanova's eyes gleamed with anticipation as she turned to her console. As the hybrid creation protocols whirred to life, Murphy stared out at the stars. wondering if there would be anything left of humanity's soul when this war was finally over.